Utah women say the state's criminal justice system has failed to protect them from an accused serial predator who is still free tonight.
KSL investigators have spent months looking into his criminal history. But as Daniella Rivera reports, despite a series of crimes against women spanning the last decade, his sentences amount to less than a month behind bars.
State of Utah versus Joshua Lloyd Homer. The defendant is present, represented by Mr. Gallegos.
The defendant, 26-year-old Joshua Homer.
This is a troubling case.
The crime before this court.
They essentially met at a motel. There was some sexual interaction between him and a 16-year-old.
That's statutory rape under Utah law.
And are the facts as they've been explained by your attorney accurate?
Yes.
But even after admitting to a sex crime against a 16-year-old, Joshua Homer walked right out of this courtroom in October after pleading guilty to dealing harmful materials to a minor.
Josh, are you going to follow your probation this time?
Sentenced to spend little more than a week inside the Weber County Jail. Booked in 3 days later, let out 9 days after that. Free, just in time to face another judge in Davis County on November 1st. A similar crime with the same teenage victim, but no additional jail time. Plea deals in both cases kept him off the sex offender registry. Prosecutors in both counties tell us it was the best they could do with the evidence they had.
We're building a criminal history on this guy. We now have 2 more convictions on his record that we didn't have before this. Yes, he didn't do an appreciable amount of time in jail. Yes, there were potentially more serious charges that could have been filed. But at least we got something.
And what is your reaction to learning?
But Homer's most recent accuser, Vanessa Clark, says that something wasn't enough.
That just days before the system had a chance.
I think they can do better than this.
Utah's legal system has already given Joshua Homer more than a handful of second chances. Homer's juvenile records reveal when he was 16, he was charged with felony rape of a child. While that wasn't the first allegation made against him, it was the first record we could find of a felony prosecution. He pleaded to a lower charge. As an adult, Homer's been arrested at least 9 times.
Leave me alone! Get the away from me!
His history includes multiple charges for domestic violence.
This isn't the first time I've reported something with him, and I know
he's forced his way into women's homes, damaged cars.
Why did I do that?
And faced judge after judge.
State of Utah versus Joshua Homer.
While warning after warning,
0 tolerance,
has failed to stop
one last chance.
His repeated behavior.
You will end up spending a significant amount of time in jail. Do you understand that, sir?
Altogether, Joshua Homer's convictions could have had him in jail for more than 3 years. Instead, he's been sentenced to spend a total of just 26 days behind bars, with the rest of his jail time suspended in favor of probation. Lock him up is the demand of a Change.org petition aimed at Homer. In 2020, women started sharing allegations of sexual assault against him under the hashtag Utah Rapists. The movement caught the attention of state investigators who tell us they've received more than 25 reports of sexual assault against Joshua Homer. Our team spoke with several accusers, and we noticed their stories show a disturbing pattern. But our investigation also revealed law enforcement already figured that out 7 years ago. A report in a 2015 case written by a Syracuse police detective and obtained by the KSL investigators connects 5 incidents involving Joshua Homer, sharing several similarities. 4 include accusations of sexual assaults happening the first time the parties meet, and when the victims say no, he becomes forceful. But Homer has never been convicted or even charged with rape as an adult, though Utah law enforcement agencies have investigated at least 5 rape allegations against him. In 2 cases, victims requested police stop the investigations, with one woman saying the process had, quote, not done any good for her. In another, police closed the case before formally screening it with prosecutors, citing lack of evidence. And in 2 other cases, Davis County Attorney Troy Rawlings' office came to the same conclusion.
So these 2 cases that we've declined, we're very well aware of that in factual reality, possibly they were raped. They declined those cases because there was insufficient evidence to file them.
Josh? Hi, I'm Daniella. I'm with the KSL investigators. We'd like to ask you a couple questions. Do you feel like your plea deals and your sentences have been fair to your victims?
Homer avoided our cameras at the Ogden Courthouse in October. leaving our questions to his longtime attorney, Rich Gallegos.
You've been representing him since he was a juvenile, right?
A long time.
Do you think your client is a danger to Utah women and girls?
No.
No?
Vanessa Clark disagrees.
My story could have been prevented, just like many other women, if he just would have been put behind bars.
Just days after Homer walked out of the Weber County Jail, and just days after he was given no more jail time by a second judge, Vanessa, unaware of his history at the time, says Joshua invited her over on November 6th and then raped her.
I can't believe that he was able to do what he did.
She reported the assault to law enforcement and underwent a forensic exam at the hospital. Now the Utah County Sheriff's Office is investigating.
That I have full confidence in the ability and the skills of our investigators.
I think that the criminal justice system and Josh Homer need to be held accountable.
Vanessa wants to know why Joshua Homer was free that day.
With all of these records, it shows that he just should not be out on the streets because it's a liability to the other lives of other girls like me.
And she wants Utah's criminal justice system to protect others.
I hope to be his last victim.
This report is the first in a series examining gaps in Utah's criminal justice system and how those gaps leave victims unprotected. If you've experienced sexual violence, you can access free help and resources right now by calling Utah's 24-hour sexual violence hotline. And if there's something you want our team to look into, call or text the KSL investigators or send me an email at Daniella@ksl.com. Mike and Deanie.
An accused serial predator is behind bars tonight after a report by the KSL investigators. Our team is spending months digging into Joshua Homer's criminal past. KSL investigator Daniella Rivera reports on the breaking updates tonight.
Our investigation into Homer's past revealed crimes against women spanning the last decade, but sentences amounting to less than a month behind bars. Less than 24 hours after the first report in our investigation, Failure to Protect, aired here on KSL 5 News, we got word Homer is back behind bars. The question now is how long he'll stay there. This is 26-year-old Joshua Homer, shown here in a new mugshot from the Utah County Jail, but it is far from his first.
It's something that lives with you every single day now. And it's just kind of hard to go forward.
Vanessa Clark is Joshua Homer's most recent accuser. She says he sexually assaulted her in November, just days after he was released from the Weber County Jail, while on probation for sex crimes against a 16-year-old, and after he received this warning from a judge.
You understand what that means, Mr. Homer. If you violate any of the conditions of the day reporting requirements, during that period, any additional time will be served in custody. You understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
The Utah County Sheriff's Office confirms Homer is now on a 72-hour hold that allows adult probation and parole to investigate whether he's violated his probation. If he has, they can schedule a hearing before a judge.
Josh, are you going to follow your probation this time?
Our investigation revealed Homer has had a lengthy history with probation and probation violations. In all, Homer's been convicted of 7 new crimes while on probation for another crime. He's had probation revoked and reinstated 3 times, and twice his violations have resulted in the court just ending the probation. It happened in Davis County last month.
He's got plenty on his plate with the new case here and the one in Weber County.
The circumstances were simply going to terminate it as unsuccessful.
After his arrest today, Vanessa Clark is waiting to see what happens this time.
I think that the criminal justice system and Josh Homer need to be held accountable.
Failure to Protect is an ongoing series of reports from the KSL investigators examining gaps in Utah's criminal justice system and how those gaps leave Utahns unprotected.
In KSL's investigation, Failure to Protect, an accused serial predator arrested the day after our first report in this series was back in court today.
KSL investigators have spent months digging into Joshua Homer's criminal past, and tonight Daniella Rivera reveals when law enforcement knew about potential probation violations and when they finally took action.
Joshua Lloyd Homer.
When we last saw Joshua Homer in October, he walked in and out of the courtroom a free man.
morning, Your Honor.
But today, he faced a Davis County judge from inside the Utah County Jail.
State of Utah versus Joshua Homer.
Without his longtime private attorney, Rich Gallegos, who last week filed to be removed from the case.
Do you want us to see if you qualify for a public defender?
See if I qualify.
Joshua Homer is here for several alleged violations of his probation.
He is currently under investigation for rape.
Vanessa Clark reported to law enforcement in Utah County that Homer sexually assaulted her on November 6th. That was just days after he was in front of this same judge and sentenced to zero-tolerance probation for sex crimes against a 16-year-old.
I can't believe that he was able to do what he did.
Another troubling detail of Vanessa's report to law enforcement is her statement that Homer had a gun.
And I saw it, that it was fully loaded and just out in the open. And even when I asked him to maybe even put it away, showing him that I was scared of it, he was aggressively defensive about it. And it made me more scared in that position.
Vanessa says she told police about the gun when she reported the assault in November. And the KSL investigators told the Utah County Sheriff's Office about her claim too, in this interview with Sergeant Spencer Kennan on December 2nd.
He's now a felon and he's on probation. And I'm trying to figure out, how has he not been arrested for a probation violation? Have detectives called AP&P to let them know, maybe do a house check?
I don't know on the specifics of that. I don't know if they're what steps they've taken, what contacts they've made.
The Sheriff's Office admits that communication between agencies about the gun didn't happen until the morning after our first report on Joshua Homer aired on December 13th. Documents later submitted to the courts by Adult Probation and Parole reveal they didn't hear from the Utah County Sheriff's Office until the next day, December 14th, when they were notified about an investigation into Homer for an alleged rape and that the victim claims she's seen Homer in possession of a loaded firearm. AP&P arrested Homer that same day. They did not find a gun, but a search of his home and car found evidence of potential drug and alcohol use, 2 pocket knives, and a driver's license that didn't belong to him. AP&P submitted claims of 8 probation violations to the courts, and despite previously recommending probation for Homer, the agency now says he is an extreme public safety risk and not a good candidate for the privilege of probation.
But before that, supervision records obtained by the KSL investigators indicate between October 18th and December 7th, AP&P considered Homer to be in compliance. Only 2 visits to his home are listed in these heavily redacted documents, and they both end the same way. No answer at the door.
Aren't they supposed to be checking up on him? What are they even doing their jobs?
So, Your Honor, we'd like to deny those allegations for now.
The state's asking, Your Honor, that the no bail hold remain in place.
In court today, Judge David Connors decided to keep Homer in custody without bail until his next hearing in this case, set for January 10th. Mike and Deanie.
All right, Daniella, thank you.